mentioned the term initially when I started the business because I felt like an absolute Excel zero when I started working as an actuary back in 2009. And when I look back now, I can laugh because I actually came into my job feeling pretty confident. I thought I was maybe a 6 or 7 out of 10 intermediate level when it came to Excel. My boss actually asked me in the interview, how are your Excel skills? And I was pretty confident. And I realized when I started day one of my job that I was actually an Excel zero. And it wasn't a nice feeling at all. I felt like I was being very inefficient, unproductive, didn't really feel like I was adding much value to the business. The entire business was built on Excel. And as I've seen over the years, so many businesses rely heavily on Excel. But the reality is that we don't know what we don't know. And that was me when I started the first few days, few weeks, few months. There was this whole world beneath the surface of Excel, and I really wanted to become an Excel hero. And I didn't have a course to go on. I didn't have any formal training. It was more just learning on the job, Googling, YouTubing, asking my boss, and just really trial and error. And yeah, fortunately, over 4 years, I was working on Excel all day, every day, and I got really, really confident and proficient and productive on Excel. And I started to feel a lot more like an Excel hero. And then down the line, I realized that I've got a real love and a passion for teaching people and for working smart and helping other people to work smart. And I put that all together and I said, you know, people don't know what they don't know on Excel. Everyone's got it on their computer. And there really is a huge need for fun, interactive, and accessible training on Excel to help people to get ahead. And that's the story behind the business. And hopefully today we can help you in some way to feel more like an Excel hero. And really to become an Excel hero means to work smarter, to find the more efficient, smarter, time-saving ways of doing things in Excel. And one of the benefits of becoming an Excel hero is that you'll become more confident and efficient in all areas of your day-to-day work on the computer. You can take a lot of the skills, techniques, and attitudes from Excel and use them in your work in Microsoft Outlook, in Word, in PowerPoint, in Google, in any application, because we'll be, as an example, we'll be helping you to become more of a keyboard person. And that's one of the fundamental skills that you need to start to master if you want to feel like an Excel hero. So I've posted a link into the chat. So please click on that link in the chat if you haven't already. And one of the downloads in that chat is an Excel file. We want you to work along with us as we go. You can watch, you can put your feet up, and you can just watch passively, and that will be valuable, but it will be a lot more valuable if you're actually working on Excel with us as we go. This session, there should have been a notification pop up telling you that I'm just going to make sure that I'm admitting everyone from the waiting room. There was a notification saying that the session is being recorded and live streamed, so that's very useful. Firstly, if you need to leave early, you can catch up on the recording. Secondly, if you attend the full hour and a half, you may well still want to recap and revise. And I can't emphasize that enough, that it really is important to remember that practice is critical. Practice makes these skills permanent. It's the same old cliche of learning to ride a bike. You might wobble and fall a few times, or if you're learning to drive a car and getting clutch control is tricky at first. It's the same concept when working in Excel and learning skills that you haven't seen before, haven't accessed before. You're accessing new parts of your brain. It's new muscle memory, and we really need to practice in order to make these skills stick and make these skills permanent. Just a quick note, if you are watching on your phone and you'd like to watch on your laptop, you need to register from your laptop device, and we can pop the link. Charlene, I know your hand is up and you popped a message in the chat. I'm going to ask my colleague Avi just to assist you to be able to watch from your laptop. Okay, first prize is if you actually have two screens. You might be watching the actual Zoom on a certain device, on your phone or your tablet or your laptop. And then if you've got a second screen or a second device where you can access Excel, that will be best, because then you'll have us on the one screen and Excel on the other screen. You'll be able to work along with us as we go. But otherwise, if you have one laptop or one screen, that's also okay. You can put the Zoom on the one side and you can put Excel on the other side. The reason I'm emphasizing this is because, as I said, the more practical, the more hands-on you get, the more beneficial that the session will be. Again, just like the riding a bike, you can see well, you can't see it actually because I've got a virtual background, but I've got my bicycle in the back here. Yeah, the analogy is that you need to practice, and to learn to ride a bicycle, it doesn't really help to read books and watch videos about riding a bike. It does help, but you definitely need to get on the bicycle itself and actually ride. Or if you were learning to swim, you need to jump in the water and swim. So we definitely do encourage you to get active on Excel and to get your hands dirty. All right, so guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the link. I'm actually going to post it again in the chat because there's a number of people that have just joined. So, okay, let's make sure I post it to everyone in the meeting. There we go. We would like you to click on that link. It's a WeTransfer link, and you should be able to download. All right, let's share my screen so you can see what I'm talking about here. Okay, let's move this out the way to there. Let's just get organized here. And this downloads zipped folder. Okay, downloads. There's today's date, 29th of March. I'm going to click to open it. And there we go. We've got our crash course data, especially for today. This is the Excel data that we're going to be working on. And then we've got the keyboard shortcuts cheat sheet. We've become quite well known for this keyboard shortcuts cheat sheet. If you've attended any of our training in the past, free crash courses or our online courses, you've probably got a copy of this. If you've attended a face-to-face training, most of that was pre-lockdown when we could safely interact in a classroom setting. And actually these days, the last few years, everything in our business has gone online. So it's quite convenient that you are watching this and you can access our courses from the comfort and safety of your own home, wearing your slippers if you want. But this is available for download. So you can open this up, and this is yours. It's a really cool keyboard shortcut cheat sheet. I'm going to open it up. So I've got it open on my computer as we go. You should be able to see everything on my screen at this point. One of the keyboard shortcuts that we use when we're in Adobe looking at a PDF is Control L, and I want to practice what I preach. I mentioned a few minutes ago that using or learning Excel shortcuts can help you in other applications. And here's a good example. Control L is an example of a keyboard shortcut that is useful when you are looking at a PDF document. Why? Because we've gone into full screen mode. It looks a lot cleaner, looks neater. It's gone and maximized the screen. And here you can see the shortcut cheat sheet that are held up for you. We've got navigation shortcuts, we've got selection shortcuts, we've got formatting. And if we go to page 2 by pressing the right arrow, then we've got alphabetical control shortcuts. Control A for selecting all, B for bold, C for copy, and so on. Almost every letter in the English alphabet has an associated control shortcut. This can all save us huge amounts of time and effort. And then at the bottom, we've got our F key shortcuts. And just to mention, F1 is to help. If you need help from Excel, you can press F1. You might need to press the FN key if you're on a small keyboard, a small laptop, then you can press the FN key and the F1 key, and that will open up help, and that's useful. It's Excel's way of giving you assistance as you go if you're a bit lost or confused. F2 is a really useful keyboard shortcut as well to edit a cell. We'll see that as we go. This is a useful one as well, toggling reference between you can see there's an example, A1 or $A, $1, that's F4. And the last shortcut on this list over here on page 2 is F12, and we're going to see that in a moment. That's the keyboard shortcut for save as. We know that Control S is to save. There it is, Control S for save, and F12 is for save as. And this is useful not just in Excel, but also in applications like Word and PowerPoint if you want to save as. So you want to save you keep the original version and save the another version with a different name. I am going to toggle from one window or one application to another. How do I do that? I use Alt and Tab on my keyboard. So Alt with the left thumb and Tab with the left index finger. I think that Avi is posting the keyboard shortcuts that I'm mentioning into the chat. So thank you, Avi, for that. Let's move the Zoom window out of the way over there. So that's great. All right. Okay, I'm going to make sure that I spotlight my video so everyone can see me nice and clearly. Okay, and what you can see over here, let's just revise that for a moment. Alt Tab is to toggle between different windows. So I hold down the Alt key with my left thumb and I press the Tab key a few times with my left index finger. And there you can see, I can see all the windows that are currently open. Now I'm going to go to this one and I'm going to open up the crash course data. Okay, and I've spoken for a few minutes about this, that we're working on a practical Excel spreadsheet, and we're going to be looking at, as Tracy mentioned, 5 Excel secrets, and these are going to help to move the needle in terms of your efficiency and your confidence and your feeling like an Excel hero. So the first thing we do when we open up this Excel spreadsheet is we see that there's a yellow bar at the top. Protected view. Be careful, files from the internet can contain viruses. I think we all agree we've seen enough viruses over the last 2 years. So we are going to click enable editing, because in this case, we are grateful that Windows is checking our files, but we're happy with this. This is a safe file, so we just click enable editing. All right, the next thing we notice is that your version of Excel might look slightly different to our version of Excel. It's nothing to stress about, nothing to worry about. We know that if we're on Microsoft 365, we get updates continuously from Microsoft. They're constantly fixing bugs and glitches in the system that might be there. And they're also just making sure that the Office or Microsoft Office applications look and feel as user-friendly as possible. So aesthetically, the look and feel might look slightly different. These curved lines over here, the tab buttons might be in a different color on your version. It's nothing to stress about. Just the point that I'm making is that Avi and I are working on Microsoft 365. So we've got the latest version of Excel and the Office applications on our machine. But if you've got a slightly older version of Excel, it might look and feel slightly different, but overall the functionality is going to be largely the same. All right, the next thing we're going to look at is, what do we actually have here? You'll see that we've got data, we've got first name, last name, we've got a progress column. What are these numbers? Okay, give that some thought. Okay, we've got numbers there. They look like they're between 0 and 1. Then we've got a workshop column, we've got a sign in column, and then we've got some, we've got some columns here with some weird and wonderful numbers. If we have a look here at these numbers, 44,636, then we got these numbers, which are between 0 and 1 with quite a few decimal places, and then SAST over here. And then we've got member since. All right, so these numbers look quite big. They look quite messy. Overall, the data looks quite complex. It looks quite overwhelming. How many columns have we got? It looks like 9 columns from A to I. How many rows of data do we have? That is a very good question. I'm so glad you asked. Okay, is it a sign of insanity if I'm having a conversation with myself? All right, we have how many rows of data? How do we get to the bottom of our data? We would like to jump or teleport to the bottom of the data. Does anyone know what the keyboard shortcut is to jump to the bottom of our data? If you do know, please post it into the chat. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to make this as interactive as possible. Under the circumstances of being on Zoom, probably the most effective way for us to chat is via the chat. Neville Golden, thank you for your comment. You've said Control End. That's a great idea. Control End. Let's all try that together. Control and the End button. That takes us to the last cell that we've used in this spreadsheet, which is row number 13,252. We are Nelly Fenter, and we're in column I. So column I and row number 13252. So excellent. Thank you very much, Neville. The shortcut that I was actually looking for and referring to wasn't that exact shortcut, but that shortcut is really useful. Control End takes us to the last cell that we've used. The shortcut I was thinking of is Control and the down arrow. Did you see what I did? I went to stand in any cell over there and I held down the Control key and the down arrow. And as Avi said in the chat, that helps us to teleport to the bottom of the data. I can also teleport to the right of the data. If I press Control right, I can teleport to the left if I press Control left, and I can teleport back up to the top if I press Control and the up arrow. So we want you to take maybe 10 seconds just to familiarize yourself with holding down the Control key and pressing the different arrow keys on your keyboard. All right. Okay, David Tucker, thank you for that question. We are definitely going to deal with these dates. These are dates that need to be formatted. Okay, you've identified that they are indeed dates. Maybe the clue was with that 44,000 and something number that or gave you a bit of a clue that that is in fact a date. And also last activity, that's the date that this person was last active on our platform. So essentially what this is it's an export of data from our online learning platform, but we've gone and anonymized the names to avoid any puppy issues. And we have randomized, we've taken away the number formatting here to make this look quite messy. So it gives us an opportunity to, during the session, to format our numbers so they tell the right story. And also what you can notice here with the first names and last names is particularly in the last name column, you'll see that the casing is mixed and muddled. We've got some last names which are all in caps, some which are in the correct case, and some which are all in small letters. And we would definitely like to standardize that. Okay, and we're going to spend a long time if we do those manually one by one. We won't have enough time during today's session to do all 13,252. So one of the things, you know, when it comes to being and feeling like an Excel hero is asking yourself, what is the smartest, quickest, most efficient way to do this? And we'll be going through formula, using a couple of different formulas and functions to clean up our data. Okay, and we'll get there in a few minutes time. But for now, we would like to jump once again to the bottom of the data. As I said, control and the different arrow keys lets us teleport. And if we want to discover how many rows there are in an Excel spreadsheet in total, we're not going to hold down the down arrow because that's going to take us hours and hours to eventually get to the bottom of Excel. Okay, we could press the page down key. It's going to save us some time. You can see, I can see 13,411 to 13,443. And then when I press the page down key, then I can see the next batch of rows. But this is also going to take me hours and hours to actually get to the bottom. The quickest way to get to the bottom is a shortcut that we've already shown you a couple of minutes ago, and that is control and the down arrow key, and it teleports us right to the end of the Excel world. Okay, the earth is round, but the Excel world is flat. It's not infinite. It doesn't carry on forever. It ends at row number 1,048,576. I can say that number fluently because I've practiced it. I know some of our former politicians may have struggled with a number like that, but we'll move swiftly along to control right to see column XFD. That is the last column in an Excel spreadsheet, and that's 16,000 and something. If we've got over 1 million rows, over 16,000 columns, it is a lot of space, a lot of cells in our spreadsheet, and that's just sheet one. Sheet one contains over 17 billion cells. Okay, more than double the number of people in the world. That's the number of cells in sheet one. And then the same in sheet two, sheet three, sheet four, sheet five. At this stage, we only have sheet one. I'm going to jump back to cell A1 using control and home. Control and home. By the way, the home key on my big keyboard over here, control home, you actually can't see it because of my virtual background. Maybe I should turn that off for a moment. Let's just cancel the virtual background for now. All right, there you can see my bicycle. And over here, there's the home button. Okay, so there's the home key and there's the end key. On your keyboard, it might be the case that you've got a small laptop or small keyboard and you need to press control and function and the left arrow. Okay, if your left arrow says home. So you just need to see on your keyboard what's the configuration, what's the layout, and that's the name of the game, that you just need to adapt the keyboard shortcuts that we show you to your keyboard. Okay, so we pressed control home and that took us to cell A1, and that's a similar concept to pressing home on Google Maps. It will take you home back to your residence, your home, as quickly and efficiently as possible. So in Excel, it's control home. And a keyboard shortcut that we showed you a moment or two ago is the first shortcut on page 2, which is Control A, is to select all. So that's really useful. Control A, that selects all the cells in our data set. If we press it again, it selects all the cells in the entire Excel. Now, bear in mind, if you want to do something to your data, for example, putting in borders or making things bold, you don't want to select 17 billion cells if you can get away with selecting just the actual cells that have data in. All right, so keep that in mind. Something that we mentioned as well, I mentioned that our spreadsheet, our sheet name is called Sheet 1. We typically like to stay away from those generic sounding names of sheets and names of book. If you've got book 1 and sheet 1, it's not really telling a story. So you can see that crash course data, and then we've got our date. This is in fact a read-only file. Okay, so we're going to save it as in a couple of moments. But before we save as, we can double click on sheet 1 and we can just change it to data. This is our data, so we're calling it data. And over the course of the next hour and 4 minutes, we're going to get to a point where we build a pivot table, and that's going to sit on another sheet. So it really becomes helpful to name our sheet tabs kind of like chapters in a book. All right, and let's go back for a moment with Alt Tab to our shortcut cheat sheet. And we've gone from the first keyboard shortcut on this page, Control A, down to the last shortcut on this page, which is F12, which is save as. So let's press F12 together on our keyboard. We press F12, and that opens up the save as dialog box. And you can see the address here is a temporary folder. We don't want to work in a temporary zipped folder. That was convenient for us to download the file, but now we want to save it somewhere convenient and memorable on our computer. Either, okay, you might want to save it on your desktop, but we like to stay away from saving things on our desktop because that's like keeping lots and lots of pieces of paper and files on our actual physical desktop, and things get messy and unstructured and disorganized. So it's best to actually get into a good habit and avoid saving things on our desktop. You could save it in documents, you could save it in downloads, or you could save it in a cloud storage program or application such as Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive. And that way you'll make sure that it's always saved in the cloud. If anything happens with your computer, if it crashes or anything happens with the power or your battery on your laptop, you won't have an issue because it will be saved in the cloud. In addition, it's great for collaboration. So for example, for me and Avi in our business, we save everything on Dropbox. Why? Because then we know that there's a backup and Avi is going to get the latest version synchronized on his side. So I'm definitely going to make sure that this is saved on Dropbox. All right, so this is the folder for today. And here you can see the full address. I've just pinned it on the quick access over here. I just dragged this folder in my file explorer to the left-hand side. And this is the original file, the crash course data. All right, I actually want to take out where it says copy of, and I'm going to go to the end and I'm just going to put in my initials. And that's a simple way for me to identify that I've actually been working on this file. So I've got crash course data DS, I press enter, and now I have saved as. And I want to remind myself and remind you to save your work regularly because we never know when our computer might freeze. We've all seen Excel sometimes when it's a bit overwhelmed or our computer system is overwhelmed and we get it kind of like grays out. It goes a little bit faded and it says not responding. And it's a horrible feeling because you think you hold your breath and you just hope that you haven't lost your work. So it's a great habit to be into as regularly as possible, to press Control S to save. All right, you should have a little, I don't know what this is. I don't know, I'm not old enough to know the difference between a floppy and a stiffy disk, but this is the save button. And we can see when we hover our mouse cursor over that button, it says save, Control and S. All right, okay, I'm gonna admit everyone from the waiting room. There were 3 people, okay. What I think I should do, Avi, I think I'm going to make you the host so that you can keep one eye on the waiting room there as well. Okay. All right, great stuff. Thank you, Avi. All right, guys. So now we are looking at our data and we would definitely like to zoom in a little bit because the data is looking and feeling a little bit small. So how do we do that? We can either go to the zoom bar over here. That's not the dance style. That's Zumba. This is the zoom bar. Okay, we can click on the plus button and we get to 110, 120, 130%. We can also hold control and scroll upwards with the wheel on the mouse. Okay, so we can scroll or roll the wheel up on the mouse and that lets us zoom in, okay, or we scroll down to zoom out. All right, and now we've had a look at our data. We know that there's over 13,000 rows. We know there's 9 columns, and this is In fact, secret number one today is keyboard shortcuts, becoming more of a keyboard person. And we're going to show you some keyboard shortcuts for formatting these numbers as well. But we've already shown you some of the power and the benefit of using the keyboard shortcuts as opposed to the mouse. We encourage you to become keyboard people. We have at the top of our cheat sheet over here, it says, I'm a keyboard person. We don't necessarily expect you to throw the mouse away. The mouse is still useful. We can be keyboard and mouse people, but it's about becoming more of a keyboard person and integrating more keyboard shortcuts into your day-to-day work on Excel and in other programs. So that's secret number one, is just accessing the power of the keyboard. Secret number two is accessing the power of table mode in Excel. Okay, we're working with a data set here. We've got lots of data, and anytime you've got lots of data in Excel, it is definitely best practice to convert it into a table, an Excel table. How do we do this? First step is don't stand in outer space on the right-hand side in the middle of the wilderness on the right. Okay, we don't want to stand there. We are working on our data, so we want to stand on our data. That means that our mouse cursor must be somewhere on the data. Okay, does that make sense? Anywhere on the data. And then step two is we press Control and the letter T on our keyboard. Control and the letter key, the letter T, not the letter key. Okay, so Control and the letter T. And what happens here? We get create table. We get a little pop-up box and it says, where's the data for your table? It's automatically selected the entire data set. It's got it from A1 to I13252. It's also identified that we have headers. So it says my table has headers, which is good news. It's noticed that we've got headers in the top row, and we can simply click OK or press enter. And we notice that our data looks a whole lot better. What has actually happened? All right, let's take a deep breath. Let's have a look around and let's get a feel for what's actually going on. All right, let's go through it step by step. What has actually happened? What Excel has done, because we pressed Control T and we said we want to convert our data into a table, is it's put our data set into a really nice, good looking format. Okay, so what it's done, if we look from top to bottom, we can see that our header rows are formatted in a unique style. We've got blue background full color, and we've got white text, and it's made the text bold. Okay, so the headings are really popping out, which is great news. So we can see at first glance, where are the headings? So it's done that for us, saved us time. We didn't have to go and format the cells, it did it for us. And then below that, in the actual data set, it's formatted the rows with alternating colors. So we got blue, white, and so on all the way down. Those are called banded rows. How do I know that they're called banded rows? Because if I look up at the top of my Excel window, notice I've got my tabs, home, insert, page layout, etc., etc. And then I've got a brand new tab. I've never seen this tab before. It wasn't here before. It's only here because I'm now in the context of an Excel table. And that's why it's called a contextual tab. You might be familiar with this concept of a brand new tab sitting there temporarily on the ribbon. And you might have seen it when working with a pivot table or a chart, perhaps, or any kind of object, a picture, or a shape or a drawing in Microsoft Word or Outlook. The concept is the same. The concept is that when we've got a new object in our application, then we've got a new tab up at the top of the ribbon. So we've got a table design tab with a whole lot of buttons and features which are relevant to our table. All right, when I stand outside my table, the table design tab goes away. That's a really important concept. We don't need to panic if our tab goes away. We just simply need to go back into the table and click on table design. And as I mentioned, we've got banded rows. When I hover my mouse cursor over that particular checkbox, it says display banded rows, in which even rows are formatted differently from odd rows. This banding can make tables easier to read. If we uncheck that box, you can see that the banded rows go away, and it actually becomes a little bit more difficult to read row by row. So that's the value of banded rows. And in a similar way, we've got the option for banded columns. I can leave that off. We also have a bunch of table styles here. Now, this is really useful because you might not like the color blue, might be a bit overbearing. You might prefer this black and gray and white style. You might like orange, or you might want to access more styles by just clicking on that little drop down. And this is my favorite style. I typically go to this. This is blue table style medium 16. And what it does is it draws specific attention to the headings because we've got that blue and white heading row. And then we've got a more subtle formatting for the banded rows, gray and white. I know Avi likes this. So we can stick with this for now, but you can really choose the one that works best for you. Okay, we're going to save our work. Control S, we're going to get into that habit. And notice that we are fortunate that Excel actually does save our work every few minutes. And you can access those settings if you go to the File button. Notice this is actually what's called Backstage View. Okay, the File tab takes us backstage, behind the scenes of Excel. Here you've got recent files, you've got pinned files shared with me, you've got different templates over here, you've got different options down the left-hand side. But for now, what I want to show you is, besides for the fact that the weather is very nice in Joburg today, 21 degrees and sunny. I hope it's nice wherever you're joining us from. If we click on options, you'll see here, these are the settings for our spreadsheet. Every time we open a new workbook, we've got font size 11, we've got it in normal view, and we've got one sheet. I know in older versions of Excel, you would open up Excel and there'd be sheet 1, sheet 2, and sheet 3. We can click here on the save button, and just to show you an example of a setting, we've got save auto recover information every 5 minutes, which is convenient. Okay, if you are worried about losing your work because of your battery or load shedding or anything like that, then you can reduce that. You can say that Excel must save your work every 2 minutes if you want. All right, so guys, we are working in table mode. We've seen that it makes our work look a lot more professional, but it's not just a pretty face. It actually makes us work much more efficiently when we're actually working on this data. When we reveal to you some of the other secrets, we are going to show you that your work in Excel becomes a lot more intuitive because we're in table mode, working with formulas and functions, and formatting our work in Excel becomes a lot more seamless and convenient and efficient because we're in table mode. So on that note, let's have a look at one or two more practical benefits of working in table mode. I mentioned to you that we got banded rows and banded columns. Let's have a quick look at last column. What you see over there is it draws specific attention to our final column or our first column. We might want to highlight them. You probably also noticed that there are sort and filter buttons that automatically appear there, which is great. You can see that we've got 4 different categories under the workshop heading. We've got 101, 202, 303. Those are Excel courses. And then we've got an Outlook course, which is called Outlook Secrets. And we can filter our data by ticking and unticking these boxes over here. And that's really useful. And we can sort our data. Okay, so we might want to sort it A to Z or Z to A. And we can turn those filter buttons off and back on, and you can also access that button on the data tab. There's a funnel filter, and it actually says the keyboard shortcut is Control and Shift and L. So let's practice that. Control Shift L, Control Shift L. So that's very useful. And then the last button that I want to show you here is the total row, and that says turn on or off the total row of the table. The total row is a row at the end of the day, which displays totals for each column. So we can tick that box, and you can see it's added up all of these big numbers over here to make a huge number, which is not that relevant. We can delete that. But what I do want to show you is an example of using the total row. In the third column here, we can see that the heading is progress. What happened here, guys? Have a look. If we stand outside of our table, can you see we've got A, B, C, D? But as soon as we go back into our table, we actually see the column heading. And that's one of the examples of where a table is really intuitive. It's helping us to identify what those column headings are. And we know, I'm sure you've seen in your work in Excel, when you're working with data and you scroll down, if you haven't frozen the top row or you're not working in table mode, it can get really frustrating not knowing what these columns refer to, what the columns headings are. So here, when we're in the table and we're in table mode, it's intuitive. We've got our column headings instead of the ABC, and we even have the filter buttons, so we can work with our headings and our filter buttons. Now, what I want to show you here is I might want to know what is the overall average progress across all 13,252 people across all workshops. So I can just simply click on the drop down over here and go to average. I don't need to use my calculator. I don't need to auto sum and then divide by the total. I don't need to type in equals average bracket this to this. I just simply pick from the drop-down list. Okay, guys, is that cool? Is that useful? Is that efficient? I think it definitely is. Okay, and it's one of the significant benefits of working in table mode. All right. Okay, you might also be thinking now, it really is time to format these numbers. Okay, these numbers are looking a bit messy. They're not looking like they should. You might be thinking they should be formatted as percentages. And if you are thinking that, you're exactly right. We definitely want to format these numbers as percentages because they are progress figures and they figure numbers between 0 and 1. In other words, between 0 and 100%. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you now a keyboard shortcut to select the entire column quickly and efficiently using the keyboard while standing anywhere in this particular column. Instead of taking the mouse and clicking over there, what we're going to do is we're going to press Control and the space bar. That is the place that astronauts go to have a drink. They go and they sit at the space bar. So that's the way that you're going to remember this. Control and space bar is to select the entire column, but it actually didn't select the total row. So we're going to press it again, Control and space bar, and then we're going to press Control and I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you what happens when we hover our mouse cursor over the percentage style button, the percent symbol on our ribbon. We've got a keyboard shortcut in brackets there, which says Control and Shift and percent. Okay, that is where the percent button is the same key as the number 5 on our keyboard. So we need to press Control, Shift, and the number 5. And there we go. Our data is formatted beautifully as percentages, and we might want a decimal place. So we simply go to the increase decimal button over there, and there we go. We've got all of these numbers with 1 decimal place. All right, guys, practice is the name of the game. Repetition is the name of the game. So how do we get good at using that Control and spacebar shortcut? We practice, we repeat it. So let's go to the last activity column. And we've alluded to this a few times already today, that these are in fact dates, but they're not formatted. So we're going to press Control spacebar. We're going to press it again to make sure that it selects all the way into the total row as well. And we are going to have a look here on our drop down. We can see that we've got short date, we've got long date, we've got a bunch of options here. We've got more number formats, but we also have a keyboard shortcut, which is Control, Shift, and the number 3 on the top of our keyboard, which is Control and hash. I'm going to press Alt Tab because I want to go to the first page of our keyboard shortcuts cheat sheet. And I want you to have a look here that we've got Control and Shift and 5, which is the percentage key. All right, and that's to convert into percentage format. Then we also have Control Shift 3 for date. And we've got Control Shift 4, which is currency. We've got Control Shift 1, which is numbers with 2 decimal places. And we've got Control Shift and squiggle, which is to the left of the number 1. And that goes back to general, back to unformatted numbers. Okay, so let's practice Control Shift and the number 3, and that converts into date format. And another opportunity to practice in column I, we are going to go to the last column. We're going to press Control Spacebar and Control Spacebar again, and then Control Shift 3. And then we're going to have a look at these 2 columns over here. We've got UTC and we've got SAST. Any idea what those abbreviations refer to? Let's see in the chat. Any ideas? What are these abbreviations? Any idea what SAST means? All right, UTC is Universal Time Code and SAST is South African Standard Time. So those are abbreviations for time zones. And these are time figures, and time figures are typically between 0 and 1. What does that mean? It means that it's the proportion of the day. All right, so if the figure says 0.5, for example, that means we're at exactly 12 o'clock midday at noon, okay, because we're halfway through the 24 hours. All right, so this is not that common that you see time figures in a spreadsheet, but it nonetheless, you might see it from time to time, and time to time, pun intended. And also, it's useful for us to practice these keyboard shortcuts for formatting our cells. So what we're going to do is we're going to press Control Spacebar and Control Spacebar again, and then we're going to press Shift and the arrow key. So we hold down the Shift button and we press the right arrow key, and what that does is it extends our selection. Instead of just selecting one column, we now have two columns selected, and we can now format these numbers into time format, and the shortcut is Control Shift and the number 2. So Control Shift 2, and there we go. You can see that we've got our time figures in those two columns. All right, so a whole lot of useful keyboard shortcuts for formatting our numbers. We've seen the benefits, some of the benefits of working in table mode. It really makes our lives a lot easier. It makes our data look more professional, and it makes it easier to read and to work with the data. And it's more intuitive when we are working with our data. For example, the automatic freeze panes feature over here. And also just to note that when you press Control Spacebar, that keyboard shortcut for selecting an entire column, when you're not in a table, it actually goes all the way down to 1,000,000, and therefore we would be formatting 1,000,000 cells, which is inefficient. If we can get away with formatting 13,000 of them, it's much more efficient. So you'll see here, Control Spacebar select only the data, and then when we press it again, it includes the total row and the heading, and then when we press it a third time, only then does it select all 1,000,000 cells. All right, guys, I'm going to press Control S. I'm going to save the work, and I'm going to, I think what we should do is take a 3-minute break, because an hour and a half of Excel with no breaks can be a little bit overwhelming. Okay, this already might be quite new, might be quite foreign to you. So let's take a 3-minute breather, comfort break, get yourself a drink, go to the loo, have a little stretch, have a little break, give your brain, give your mind a rest for a couple of minutes. And at 10:50, what's it now? It's 10:48. So at 10:51, so in 3 minutes, we will get the show back on the road. There's Avi, my partner in crime. Welcome, Avi.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, there were quite a few people that dropped off due to load shedding or just a general power outage. Let's just mute that person. Yeah, it's good timing. We'll be back in 2 or 3 minutes. That will hopefully give everyone a chance that dropped off to rejoin. And then we'll see you guys at 10:50, 10:51.
Right. Thanks, Avi.
One question, Mr. Dan.
All right, guys, welcome back. The time's 10:51, so we hope you enjoyed your little break over there. Avi, you've turned your camera on. Welcome to you. Avi, you might know Avi from the wedding band that he's a part of. You can see the guitars on his wall. They are, in fact, real. And he was at a wedding last night. He plays in a really successful wedding band. He's also my partner in the business. He's exceptionally passionate about Excel, exceptionally passionate about helping you to work smarter. And Avi is going to take it from here. We've looked at 2 secrets so far. Avi's going to pick up from where I left off. I've saved my work in Dropbox, so Avi should be able to get the latest version there, which is synchronized on his side. He'll share his screen and he'll pick up from the 3rd secret, which is tidying up the data in the first 2 columns. So Avi, over to you.
Cool. Thanks, Dan. Thanks to you guys. Okay, let's just get my layout good over here. Yeah, so I play guitar, I also play the full, and I also play Excel very well. So today we're focusing on Excel. Thanks to Dan so far, it's looking quite good. If you look at our data, Dan, I've made you host, so you can just manage anyone who needs to come in through the waiting room, etc. And then I just want to get my chat open here, so if there's any questions, then I can stay in touch with that. All right, cool. Now, guys, thanks, Neil, for your comment. If you look at this data, tell me in the chat, please, what do you still think looks a bit messy? What does not look good? If you look at this data, look closely. Please tell me in the chat what still looks like a little bit of a mess. Any ideas? Okay, the cases. Great. Anyone else? Okay, the names are a bit of a mess, or a schmutz, as some people say. They're not looking good, guys. It's uppercase, lowercase. It's a big mess. So what do we do? By the way, guys, just to get you familiar, in my Excel, I don't always have my ribbon open. You can see this is the ribbon. When I click in my data, you don't see the ribbon. Why? Because I hide it. I don't always like to see it. This is what it would look like on yours or most people's. I can say always show the ribbon. There's actually a shortcut as well. It's Control F1. Hides it, Control F1 will show it. I prefer that I don't always have to see it. I see it when I need it. Okay, guys, so what we're going to do is we need to fix up these last names. The first names look okay, so we won't worry about that for now. It's just the last name. Now, anyone that has worked in Word, Microsoft Word before will know that there's a nice button if you go up to the Home tab on Word, and you go somewhere in this font group, this over here, look at my mouse, this is the font group. In Word, there's a button here which you can click on and you can change the case. It's not that, this changes the size. The case in Word, the button looks similar, but the point is, guys, if you look in Excel, they do not have that button in Excel. Okay, why they don't have it? That's a separate discussion. They don't have it, so what we need to do, we need to use a formula. Now, if you've never done a formula, I'm still going to break it down and make it very, very user-friendly. What is a formula? How does it work? But it's basically a calculation, okay? Excel can perform all kinds of calculations, so we're going to do a formula, okay? A function, to be specific. It's a type of formula. A function is this automatic type of calculation. Now, many of you, I'm sure, have heard of the sum or the auto sum in Excel. Okay, if I just go to a random cell here, you don't have to follow along, I'm just giving you a demo. If I type in equals SUM, okay, there's a function here called sum. It's a way to add things up in a very, very efficient manner. We're not going into that now. And by the way, in our Excel 101 course, we go through many of these types of fundamental skills in Excel. Okay, we're going to talk to you about our full Excel courses at the end of the last couple of minutes. If you're interested in learning more and really getting to grips with the fundamentals of Excel, we can talk about our Excel 101 right at the end. Okay, so for now, what we're going to do, we're going to use a function. As I say, a function is a type of formula. We're going to use a function to change all these last names into a proper case. Proper, what does proper mean? Like a proper noun. It means that the first letter will be an uppercase and the rest will be a lowercase. So how do we do that? Okay, how does it all work? Now, what we need to do, step one, guys, we need to insert a blank column. Say that again. We need to insert a blank column, a new column. Now you can do it with a mouse if you want. You can take your mouse, you can right click on column C and you can click on insert. Right click on column C, I said insert. I'm going to say Control Z. That will undo for me, Control Z. Okay, there's a nice shortcut, Control Z. That will undo. Okay. Why? Because I want to show you the keyboard shortcut method as well. If you prefer the mouse method, that's fine. But our whole philosophy and outlook at Excel Academy is geared towards working smart and saving time. And the keyboard shortcut is going to help us to do that. So what do? I'm going to stand anywhere in column C. I'm going to stand anywhere in column C. I'm going to say Control Spacebar once, and then I'm going to press it again, Control Spacebar a second time. Okay. That just means it selects the column headings as well. Doesn't make a huge difference, actually. Okay. So I press Control Spacebar. That will select the entire column. Now, I want to insert a column. So I'm going to insert a new column. How do I do that? I'm going to say Control, Shift, and equals. Now, what is that? Let me just adjust my camera here. Okay. If you look on your keyboard, not you, some of you might have a different keyboard. On my keyboard, can you see that my plus symbol over here, and this is the same as yours, next to the backspace, the plus symbol is on top of the equal sign. Meaning, if you want to get to the plus symbol, it's on top. You have to press Shift and this button to get to the plus. So in our case, the actual shortcut is Control plus, which means in that case, if you add it all together, we want to press Control and Shift and equals. Let's see if I can do that. Control and Shift and equals. And if you looked at my screen over there, it inserted the column. So that's either Control, Shift, and equals is option 1. And Dan will be posting the shortcuts in the chat. Or option 2 is just Control plus, because there's a plus which only has the plus on the button. There's a button which only has the plus. So in that case, you could just press Control plus. So again, you've got to learn and understand and appreciate how your keyboard works. But on most laptops, you won't have this standalone plus button. Okay, so that's now inserting. Now that we've inserted a column, what do we do next? Well, now we've got a column to do our function. I told you that it's the proper function. By the way, look what happened when we inserted these columns. Look at column G and column J. We'll sort that out in a few minutes. That's just to do with the column width. Don't panic, don't freak out. That just means that the column width's got a bit messed up. We'll sort that out. Okay. Now what we're going to do, guys, we've got a blank column in column C that we've inserted. What we're going to do, we're going to stand anywhere in this new column. Doesn't matter where. Stand anywhere in this new column. Just trust me on this. Just stand anywhere in the new column and punch in an equal sign. Put in an equal sign, because any formula or function in Excel starts with an equal sign. That's just how it works. It starts off with an equal sign. Now what we're going to do, we're going to start typing in the name of the function. I told you what it is. It's proper. It's easy to remember because that represents a proper noun. First letter upper, the rest lower. So I'm going to type in PRO. Then I'm going to go press the down arrow twice, because you can see I can press the down arrow. I accidentally pressed enter there. Now what happened? I've got these errors. What do? We panic, we freak out. Excel's not for me, sorry. No, we press Control Z, because that will undo what happened. And now if we go and we investigate, I can double click on the cell. Okay, that double clicking on a cell takes you in. What it did, I'd only typed in PRO equals PRO, and I pressed enter, and enter tells Excel that we're done, but we weren't actually done. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to press backspace. I'm going to press the down arrow again to get to proper. Over here, you can see it might be a bit small, but the function that I want is in blue. It's PROPER, as I mentioned. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to press Tab. Tab will select that function that I want that's in blue. And again, the function we want is proper. So I'm going to press Tab, and that is now activated, what's auto-completed that function name. Okay, so it says equals, proper, and an open bracket. That's the notation for working with any function. There'll be an equal sign, the name of the function. There's more than 400 functions in Excel, and then a set of round brackets. And then something needs to go inside those brackets. What is that? That's the particular, in this case, the particular cell directly to the left of where I am. So I press the left arrow, Or I could just, with my mouse, I can go and select. Now again, guys, it doesn't matter if you're not in the exact same row that I am. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to do somewhere in column C. Doesn't matter which row. You type in equals proper. You then select the cell directly to the left of where you are. The notation when you're working in table mode is different. If you've worked a little bit in Excel before, you might remember that typically cell references will come up as an A1, B2, or C3. That's a typical cell reference in Excel. Don't worry about that too much. The point is, it's now selected this person's last name. It's done it for me. I didn't have to type this in. Didn't have to type in all these funny square brackets and @ symbols. It did it for me. All I have to do is I have to put in a closed bracket and then press enter. Okay. So what do you think? Is it looking good? Is it looking better? What happened? Let's take a step back here. Firstly, it changed. Where was I? I think I was in Mtsweni. It changed this person's last name into a proper case. Looking good. But it didn't only do that person, guys. It did the entire column all the way down. Who remembers how do we jump to the bottom? Control down, we jump down. You'll see all the way down to the 13,000 plus row, it did all of them. It went and did it all in a split second or so. I'm going to press Control up again to go back to the top. And now what we can see is we worked smart. What did we do? We combined secret number one, which is table. Because when you're working in table mode and you use any formula or function, it will auto-populate the entire column. You know what I mean? I only did it once here in, where was it, in Mtsweni, and it auto-populated the entire column. Okay, now, the final step, and this is very, very important, guys, when you start working with data and manipulating data like this, you have to be very mindful of what's going on here. Now, what is going on here? Column B is the original source data. That's what we're basing it on. In column C, what do we have? We have in all of these rows, if you look in my formula bar over here, you guys can see the formula bar here. What do we have? We have a whole series of formulas. If you double click on any of these, you'll see that these are not actually values. It's not text in the traditional sense that it's just like van Wyk. It's just the letters. In this case, it's a formula that's linked to this. So where am I going with this? Because, guys, look carefully. I don't want duplicate data. It's a mess. It's not a nice way to work. I don't want to have two columns which have last name. So what do I want to do? We can use our mouse in this case. If I right-click on column heading B, right-click on column heading B, and I say delete. And don't do this if you already know it's not going to work. But what happens if I do this? If I click on delete, look what happened. I've got hashtag ref. Why? Because the formula was linked to the thing that I just deleted. I just deleted something that something else was dependent on. So I'm going to say Control Z. As always, if you have an error in Excel, you don't panic, you don't freak out. Take a deep breath. And in many instances, you just press Control Z and it will solve the issue. Now, what do we then need to do? What we need to do, we need to, these last names in this new column C, we need to hard code it, meaning we need to paste values. We only want to have the letters here for van Wyk. We don't want to have this formula underneath. So how do we do that? It's a series of shortcuts. You could use your mouse if you want, but I'm going to show you the shortcut method. It's very simple if you follow along with us step by step. And thank you, Dan. We'll post the shortcuts in a very easy to understand manner in the chat. So what do I do? Step one. I need to stand somewhere in column C, in this new column, and I'm going to press the alien shortcut. Remember, Control Spacebar. That is step one, Control Spacebar. Then step two, Control C. Control and C at the same time. That will copy. So that's step two, Control C. Then step three, very, very important. And in our Excel 202 course, we go through this method multiple times, so it really becomes quite ingrained in you. Okay, step three. Haven't told it to you yet. And again, don't do anything else in between. And you need to do all these directly after each other. Control Spacebar, Control C, then Control and Alt and V at the same time. Control and Alt and V. Many of us know Control Alt Delete. That's if your computer freezes, you press that. Control Alt and V in this case. It brings up this window, which is the Paste Special dialog box. Okay. So Fanya, if you've got a question, you can post it in the chat. I'm sure Dan will help. What are we going to do in this case? In this Paste Special window, we are going to click on values. It's the third option there from the top left. You can see there's different types of paste. You can paste in different ways. In Excel, many of us thought you just press Control-V, that's the shortcut. We're not doing that now for paste, but Control-Alt-V brings up multiple different types of ways to paste. In this case, we want to paste values. It's the third option. I'm going to click on values. I'm then going to click on OK. Now, remember earlier when I double-clicked on any of these, what did I see? I saw a formula. Now, if I double-click on any of these, I see just the letters. Gusen, Chetty, Dwarika. You can see there's no longer a formula there. Now, that means we can now, with peace of mind, we can right-click on the column heading B, and we can say delete, and it's looking good. What we do need to do, the final step, look at the column heading, guys. We've got first name, then column 1. You must give them appropriate and relevant column heading names. So I'm going to change this to last name. Fantastic. Now, let's talk about these column widths. You can see here, column F. What is going on here, guys? We've got hashtags. Okay. What is that all about? It just means there's not enough space in that column. So the best and easiest way we can, one of the best ways is the keyboard way, but I'll show you the mouse shortcut. The mouse is not bad. We just recommend trying to use it a little bit less than we normally would using the shortcuts. But in this case, the mouse shortcut will be if you go in between column F and G and you double click, look what it does. It auto fits the column width. Again here, in between column I and J, between I and J, if I double click with my mouse, but be very careful. It's right in between column I and J on that line. Double click, and now I've adjusted those column widths. I'm going to press Control S to save. Okay, Control S, fantastic. Guys, are you having fun and finding this useful? We've so far shown you 3 secrets. We've shown you how to work in table mode. There's a poll on your screen. You should see it. Please, if you can let us know. We've shown you how to work in table mode and the many benefits of working in table mode. We've shown you keyboard shortcuts. We've shown you quite a few useful keyboard shortcuts. And, okay, so I thought the poll wasn't working, but it is, just that I'm not a host. We've shown you keyboard shortcuts and how to use them to take a lot more, to have a lot more control and save a lot of time. We've now also shown you how to tidy up your data in the sense of dealing with messy names and text and using the proper function. Okay. David, I'm not sure we are going to have time to do that today, but we can possibly send you an easy solution via email. We can have a look if we have time at the end, but we're going to focus on our 5 secrets. We've got 2 more secrets to show you. Thank you for answering the poll. What we are going to do next, we're going to dive straight into the next secret, and that is as follows. That is what we call, I'm not going to actually tell you what it is yet, but it's a type of formatting, a way to add color and make it look presentable, make your data and your numbers look presentable, but in a very smart manner. What do I mean? If you look at all these numbers here in the progress column, these percentages. So what we do when we run our Excel workshops for our clients, we typically set up a WhatsApp group where we've got multiple people from the company doing the training, and we send weekly progress updates. This is obviously the data you're looking at now. It's been anonymized, but what we do is we'll take a little extract from our report and we want to give it some color. We want to send it out as a leaderboard. So what do? Okay, very simple. I'll show you. Check how easy this is. This next secret is going to really blow your mind. And it will blow your mind because it's so simple yet so powerful. So what do? Okay. Harold the Hardy Dog agrees. Very excited to see the next secret. Okay. So what do? We're going to stand anywhere in column C. And if you didn't delete that other column earlier, then your progress will be in column D. Okay. But in our case, we've got first name, last name, and then we deleted that redundant column. We're now in column C. We're going to say Control Spacebar. Okay. And then that is step 1. Why? Because if we want to format all of these percentages, we first need to select them. It's very important. It's a fundamental, it's a fundamental idea in Excel. If you want to do something to something, You need to first select. I know it sounds funny. Do something to something. If you want to format all of these percentages, you first need to select them. So we've done that. Step 1, control spacebar. Step 2, we'll use our mouse. We'll go up to the home tab on the ribbon. Click on the home tab on the ribbon. And then over here, this is the group that we're looking for. What is this? If you look at the bottom, this is the styles group. Okay. It's just to the right of center. Center more or less is here. Then we've got styles. I'm going to click on the conditional formatting button. For now, I actually just hover. If I hover over that button, it gives me a little screen tip. Easily spot trends and patterns in your data using bars, colors, and icons to visually highlight important values. Okay. So we're going to click on that, conditional formatting. We're then going to just look at this drop-down list here. There's quite a few different types of conditional formatting, okay, where we format our data based on a condition. So we're not going to go into all of this. In our Excel 202 workshop, we go into quite a lot more detail in using conditional formatting. There's a whole section on it. Today is really just a nice taste and a starting point, okay? We're going to use this fourth option here, which is color scales. Okay, I'm going to click on that very first option as I move into this section over here. Okay, in the top left, this is the green, yellow, red color scale. I'm just going to click on that. And guys, tell me if you like that. Also tell me, was that difficult? Was that like crazy, complicated, rocket science? You had to program, you had to spend hours fine-tuning it and changing parameters and studying multiple degrees in order to do that? No, hopefully your answer will be no in the chat. It wasn't complicated. We literally clicked 3 buttons. What did we do? I'll do it one last time. I'll press Control Z, undo. I stand anywhere in the progress column. Okay. I press Control Spacebar to select. Okay. I press Control Spacebar to select. We've done that multiple times today already. I then go up to the Home tab on the ribbon. That is the second click that I've done. Okay. Third click, conditional formatting. Fourth click, color scales. Fifth click, you click on that. And what does it do? It takes the progress percentages, takes all the values in this column. It will highlight the highest values in green. It will highlight the lowest values in red. And it kind of grades in multiple shades in between with yellow, red, and orange. Okay, so this is awesome, guys. It's such an efficient, easy way to format your data. Okay. And what's really cool is that if any of these change, if this 100, any of these random numbers change to 50, look what happens to that. Can you see it updates? Okay. So that's conditional formatting. It is formatting based on a condition. Okay. It's very easy to use. Okay. As you notice, I clicked 5 buttons. That was it. Okay. You can play around with that a bit more in your own time. If you are interested in our full courses, Excel 101 and 202 and 303, we'll talk to you about that right at the end. We're offering a very, very, very generous offer and discount to you guys. We'll talk to you about that right at the end. Okay. You can customize them, David. We're not going to look at that today, but you can see when I was on that button, when I was on conditional formatting, in terms of color scales, there are already 12 different options. But if you go to more rules and you can tweak them and customize them, you certainly can. But this is obviously the most common or most popular kind of set of colors where you've got green on the one end, a red on the other, and everything shaded in between. Okay, guys, what we're going to look at next is for some people, something that gives them nightmares. Okay, but it's not really something that should give you nightmares. Dan, if you can just play some whack-a-mole there and just see if anyone is on mute. What am I talking about? Okay, and I'll tell you why I say for some people it gives them nightmares, because it used to give me nightmares, but that's a story for a few years ago, from a few years ago, where I'd never actually worked in Excel before. I didn't even know what Excel was, and I was studying towards a project management course. You need to do a particular exercise. And I chatted to a friend of mine that was already working, and he had studied a few degrees and whatever. And he sent me back this solution, and it like solved my problem. But this thing looked like absolute, like from another planet to me. Okay. It really looked like complicated. And how did he do this? And what did he do? And this is not for me. What he had done is he had converted my data in this case, this is our data, our whole table over here. It converted it into a pivot table. Now, why did it seem complicated to me? And why does anything in Excel sometimes seem complicated to people? That's not necessarily because it is difficult. This is very important. It's possible that it's only because it's new and unknown. That's a very important thing to understand. It's really the psychology of learning that we're talking about here. Okay, if we do something in Excel, or if someone shows us something and we say, no, I can't do that. That's not for me. That's complicated. I don't know how that works. It's not necessarily that it's difficult. It's possible that it's only because it's new and it's unknown. So it's important to break through that psychological barrier and realize that just because something is new, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's difficult. Okay, it's very important to think about that and really take that to heart and keep that in mind. Okay, so the pivot table is actually very, very simple. It's very simple to use. But what am I talking about? I haven't actually told you what it is yet. A pivot table is a summary of your data, meaning we've got a large set of data here, guys. If I jump to the bottom, we know, we've done this a few times, control down, we know that there are more than 13,000 rows. So a lot of data here. And if we times that by how many columns do we have? We've got 9. We got a lot. There's 150,000 data entries or something like that. I hope my maths is okay there, Dan. Okay. We've got a lot of data here, guys. Now, if we're running a business, and Dan and I are running a business, sometimes we want to know high level, what's going on here? What are the averages? How are people doing? We want to get like a bird's eye view. We don't always need to know the nitty-gritty. This is really, really the fine details of what's going on. In this case, we want to look at using a pivot table. Okay, why is it called a pivot table? Because a pivot, we heard this word quite a lot, over the last 2 years. In the early stages of COVID, people having to pivot their lives, pivot their businesses. And what that is, pivot means to move around a central point. So in the early days of COVID was the central point, and we had to move ourselves around. We had to pivot our lives and pivot our everything. Okay. So in this case, what does it mean? It means the data is the central point, this table, and we're moving around it and we're looking at it from different perspectives. That's all we're doing. We're pivoting around the data. We're looking at it from different angles, different perspectives. So pivot table is a very flexible thing. You'll see it soon. So we're now going to do it. I know I built it up. So how do we do it? Step 1, we stand anywhere in the table. Because if you want to convert your table into a pivot table, you have to be in the table. Otherwise, Excel doesn't know what you're talking about. If I go and I stand here in no man's land, okay, and I try insert the pivot table, Excel will get confused. Where am I? I'm in no man's land. I just went to the right. I'm going to move back here with my mouse, the bar. I'm standing now in my table. What am I going to do? I'm going to go up to the Insert tab on the ribbon. It's the second tab now. File is not actually a tab. That's like the file settings. Got the Home tab, which we've looked at. Now we're on the Insert tab. It's the second tab on the ribbon. And the very first button on the left is the pivot table button. What does it say? Again, let's look at the screen tip. We hover our mouse. It says, easily arrange and summarize complex data in a pivot table. Fantastic. So it says easily. Excel's already telling us it's easy, guys. What do we do that's easy? We arrange and summarize complex data. So it's data that's complex, a lot going on. We make it into a summary. So what do we do? We just click, well, you can see you can click on the top, or if you go to insert and you click there, you just say from table or range. Okay, either one will work. Click on the top of the button, or you click on from table or range. So just click on the pivot table button. Don't click on from external source, okay, if you see that. So just click on that button. Then this little box will come up. You don't have to worry about it. You have to change it. You don't have to even give it any time of day. You just have to click on OK. And now, panic stations. What has happened? We lost our data. Call RT. Dan, what's going on here? No, don't panic. What has happened is Excel's inserted a new sheet. Look at the bottom of your screen. We got data, and now we got sheet 1. If I double click on sheet 1, I can rename it like we did earlier. It's very important to name your sheets. So I've called it pivot table. Okay, capital P, capital T, one word if you want to be precise. It doesn't matter. You can spell it however you want. But it's nice to just name your sheet tabs as soon as you have more than one. Now, if we take a deep breath and we look a bit closer, Remember I said earlier, there might be crazy cats jumping around in your head at the moment, freaking out. No, don't worry about them. Okay. This might be new to you, but that again doesn't mean that it's difficult. If you look on the left-hand side of your screen, this is the placeholder. This is where your pivot table is going to go. So let's look closely. Excel's telling us something. The guys that designed Excel wanted to give us some help. So what do they say? They say, Avi, even says here, Avi, to build a report, choose fields from the pivot table field list. I need to choose fields. Okay, we'll figure out what that is soon. From the pivot table field list. There's a list of fields. Now, what are fields? I'll tell you. They are your column headings. Let's go back to our data. Look at the column headings, first name, last name, progress. They are also called fields. It's just like another data term. It's just a field. First name field, last name field, progress field, etc. Okay, so now we're back in our placeholder. But now, cat's jumping around in my brain again. Why? Because what happened to that thing on the right? We need that and I can't see it. Why can't we see it? Because we're not in the pivot table placeholder. You click in that placeholder over here on the left, then this pivot table fields list comes back. So again, the field is a column heading. And again, if you look now at the bottom, they've even given us pictures. Okay, they know that some of us are visual people, many of us. So they're showing us. What do? You can see a little tick box there. Can you see there's a tick? So if you look on the right here, this gives you the option to tick in any of these boxes. So let's just tick the first one and see what happens. Let's tick on first name. Okay. Now, let's have a look at what has happened. First of all, the placeholder's gone because it's not a placeholder anymore. It's now an actual pivot table with stuff in it. So what has happened is it's ticked first name. I'll look on the right over here. It ticked it number one. Number two, it also actually put it into the bottom here. Look in the bottom, you've got these 4 areas. We'll get into them, don't worry too much for now. But in the rows area, we've got first name. So what it did is it took first name and it's put all the first names as our row labels. But let me ask you guys this question, and please let me know in the chat. Is this a summary of our data? Is a summary what I'm seeing so far here? All these first names. If I jump to the bottom, you'll see there's a lot. There's 5,000 unique names. So let me know in the chat. Is this a nice summary that I can share with it's everything. Exactly. It's not really a summary. So the point is then, in this case, we don't really want to have first name as a row label. It's not really giving us a summary. So let's untick. Remember, we inserted the first name by ticking, so let's untick. You tick and untick. Just get a feel for that. You'll see you'll get used to it. So what do we rather want to try? Let's try the 4th option, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, workshop. By the way, if for some reason you didn't delete one of those columns earlier, you might see column 1 over here, but don't stress about that. Look for workshop in this field list. Again, if you don't see the field list, it means you're not in the placeholder. So go into the placeholder, go to the right, click on workshop. Okay, now we've got a pivot table that is a lot smaller and a lot more concise. Because what it's done, if I go back to my data sheet, it's gone into the workshop field, workshop column, and it's only returning and showing me the unique items from that list. So there's only 4 unique items out of this whole list, which means these are our core offerings for Excel 101, Excel 202, Excel 303, Outlook Secrets. Now, if you got this far, you can be proud of yourself because there's many of you, this will be your first pivot table, and this is a pivot table. There's no doubt that this is a pivot table. It's not going to win any Excel awards, but it's still a pivot table. It's taken our large data, it just took this column, and it's summarized us to only show the unique items in that column. Now, what we're going to do and add a bit more complexity so we can try to get a bit more of an insight into what is the average progress across all of these courses. So what do? Again, we click in the pivot table, because if you don't, you won't see this field list on the right. You click in the pivot table, and in this case, we're now going to tick progress. Okay, so the 3rd option will tick on progress. Now let's see what's happened. It's now added in a column here. It now says sum of progress, which we're going to change because, I'm sure you guys will agree, you do not add up percentages. It's just not something that you do. Okay, if you're looking at your matric results and you've got 7 subjects there, you're not going to add up all those percentages. You're rather going to average them out, and we'll do that soon. But importantly as well, look in the bottom right of my screen, we've now got workshop in the rows area, and we've got progress, in this case, sum of progress in the values area. Okay, we're not going to go into the other two for now, so don't worry about filters or columns. What we then want to do, we want to change sum of progress to an average. So how do we do it? There's a few ways to do it. The simplest way, actually, if you look here on my screen, let me zoom in a bit, actually. Should have done that earlier. Apologies. If you look at sum of progress here, in this as the column heading over here, double-click on sum of progress. What it does is it brings up a little window with some settings where we can change the sum to an average. So it's currently on a sum, but we said you don't add up the percentages. It's just not a done thing. We want to click on average. It's option 3. So click on average. We'll click on OK. Now what it's done is it's averaged them out much better, but the final step, and then I'm going to invite Dan back onto the screen just to wrap things up. The final step in this case is just to format these. And we've done this earlier today already. So what we're going to do in this case, we'll use our mouse. Look with me. You select all of these. Select all of these percentages with your mouse. You click and you drag to select all of these percentages. And like we did earlier, we're going to say Control, Shift, and 5. But importantly, like we said earlier, it's the 5 on top of your keyboard. You press this 5 over here, it will not work. You have to press Control, Shift, and 5. The 5 that specifically has, if it focuses in, this 5 over here, which has the percentage symbol on top. So Control, Shift, and 5, that will convert to a percentage. Guys, this is a great little pivot table because it gives us an insight into our workshops. What's the average progress? How are people doing? Are they successful? Are they engaging? Yes, they are. Everyone's above 80%. We are working on, we work with a system where we encourage people and we engage with them and we give them progress and we track them. And that really helps people to thrive and succeed in our online courses. I am going to save this. Okay. I am going to stop sharing. I'm going to just summarize what we have done. Okay. Thanks, Dan, for that poll. Would you like us to get in touch with you about some Excel training for you or your company? You can let us know and we'll get in touch with you. We'll give you a call or we'll send you an email. We'd love to have a conversation with you if it's relevant and people need this and it's really going to add a lot of value. What we also can do, I haven't really been looking at the chat, but we also are offering a very, very generous discount if you want to go now and enroll directly in any of our Excel courses, just Excel 101 or just Excel 202 or 303 or all three, or just Excel 101 and Excel 202, you can have a look around. Okay, we've given you, maybe I'll ask Dan in the next, I'll explain to you what is covered. Our Excel 101 is our fundamental skills workshop. It's not exclusively for beginners. It covers formulas. It covers those core fundamental skills that we've seen most people are lacking. Excel 202 builds on it. Looks at going into more detail into table mode like we looked at today, into tidying our data in a lot more detail, conditional formatting in a lot more detail. We look at the famous or the infamous VLOOKUP. We look at pivot tables in more detail, and pivot charts and dashboards. And what we've done, our current discount on our website, I think, is like 40%. Okay, but for you, really for you, we've actually doubled that discount. So if you're interested in enrolling, it's 80% off any of our courses. Okay, the pricing is in dollars, but don't worry about that. That's how our online business is structured. It still works out to a very, very affordable rate, okay, at 80% off. So all you need is any South African card or credit card, and you check out with PayPal. It's very simple, and then you'll get lifetime access to our courses. Okay. Thanks, Dan, also for posting ways to get in touch with us and just stay connected. You can email us, check out our website there. You can connect with us on LinkedIn. We've left up that poll, which you're welcome to take. Just again, like I was saying earlier, to summarize, what did we discuss? We looked at working in table. We looked at using shortcuts. We looked at tidying up our data. We looked at conditional formatting. We then looked at building a basic pivot table. So for me, okay, Leslie, have a look at the website there. You'll see the different options and the different prices. And then you can get in touch with us if anything else doesn't make sense. A massive thank you to Tracy and the team. Massive thank you to Dan for doing the first half. Then we had a halftime break, and then I did the second half. And yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got a lot of value. I hope you had some fun. I hope you're going to use the skills and apply them. We are going to send out the recording, I believe, so you can watch it, you can practice it. And yeah, that's it. It was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got a lot of value. Dan, Tracy, over to you.
Great stuff. Thank you, Avi. Thanks for all of your energy and passion. And yeah, a huge thank you to Tracy and the team at ORT once again for the opportunity to be here and to present to this audience, and hopefully to help to inspire some new Excel heroes. We'd love to hear from you in the chat in the next few minutes just before you log off. What was your favorite part? What was your favorite secret in today's session? Was there anything specific that really stood out that's really going to be a game changer for you in your work? We'd love to hear from you. And sorry, Tracy, I'm going to just ask you to unmute. There we go. You should be able to now.
Thank you so much, Dan, Avi. Wow. Wow, I'm completely blown away. And I know the ORT team are definitely going to be doing the Excel courses. We're so grateful to you for the really very, very, very generous offer of an 80% discount on training from the Excel Academy. Dan Stillerman, Avi Levy, thank you. It has been the most amazing hour and a half this morning with all our participants. I know that Dan and Avi are quickly just reviewing the chat box, and the recording will be sent to you afterwards, Les, and to all participants in communication. You will also receive all the content that Dan and Avi have spoken about this morning. So you will receive a personal email from myself. Nelly said she loved the pivot tables. I think we all have learned so much more than 5 secrets. It seems more like 500 secrets this morning. And we're so grateful to you both for upskilling ORT businesses, mentors, our Career Hub participants. It's really been incredible. Because you have received your 80% discount from the Excel Academy, if you would like to make a small donation to ORT now, we will put up our feedback poll and our donation poll one last time before we end today. And I thank you all. I thank you all for your time. Dan, Avi, I so look forward to working with you both again really soon. It's always a pleasure, and it's always such an amazing experience. Thank you so much. My polls have not gone up yet. So I will put a link into the post-webinar communication chat box for you to click on. And as always, your feedback is so vital to us. We like to ensure we will bring you relevant, up-to-date content all the time. Let us hear from you, and we wish you all a good rest of the afternoon. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Avi.
Hi, Tracy. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon. Cheers.
Bye.